Russia and Qatar have dismissed speculation that they risk being stripped of their right to host the Football World Cup. But with Sepp Blatter stepping down as president of FIFA after 7 senior FIFA officials were arrested, there could now be a push by other countries to re-examine the bidding process. Well, Gideon Rachman, our chief foreign affairs commentator, joins me now. Gideon, Qatar and Russia have both dismissed criticism of their bids. Are those two tournaments now in real danger of not happening, do you think?
Well, I think you have to distinguish between Russia and Qatar. I think Russia is slightly safer. In fact, I would say that the odds are strongly that the tournament will go ahead in Russia for a couple of reasons. The first is it's that much closer. It's in 2018. It will be a massive headache to take it away now, and also the evidence isn't there yet. The Qatari bid, on the other hand, it was always more controversial, but simply because of the heat in Qatar. So people were talking about having to reschedule the tournament. It's also been the subject of a lot of investigative journalism by the Sunday Times in the UK and others. So there was already a sense that things were pretty untoward with that bid. And there's the time to unpick it. But I think there is still a question mark to some extent over both bids, because we know that the Swiss police are investigating the bidding process. Now, until they come up with their findings, no one can be sure exactly what they say. And if they find something completely outrageous to do with the Russia bid or the Qatar bid, then clearly they're both in danger.
And what about FIFA itself? Of course, there's been a lot of speculation about who might replace Mr. Blatter. Where does it look to next, do you think?
Well, I mean, Blatter has said that there will be an election, and clearly there will be. I think that the next focus will be whether the actual processes, the structures of FIFA, both for electing its president, then awarding World Cups, the whole way it's governed, is actually the problem, rather than Blatter. I mean, Blatter has been so much the focus of things because of the presidential election and so on, and because people like to personify things, that I think there's been a danger to say, well, the problem with FIFA is Sepp Blatter. One has to remember that Sepp Blatter was elected by the FIFA Congress, and the FIFA Congress that elected him will elect the next president. So it's possible that the corruption is much more endemic and will be harder to root out.
But what about Mr. Blatter himself? He was only re-elected on Friday when he said at the time, why should I step down? That would mean I recognise that I did wrong. What's changed, do you think, in the 4 days that followed that?
Well, you wouldn't know from Mr. Blatter's own statement, which was very, very bland and brief, and said he had noticed that he hadn't got the full support of the world football family. Now, he will have noticed that some time ago. He's, regularly excoriated in the press and booed at football matches and so on. I can think of two possible explanations. One relates to events that actually happened that day, in which a letter was produced in South Africa, which appeared to show that a $10 million payment that the American investigators say was a bribe, essentially, had come direct from FIFA accounts. And that brought the trail much closer to Blatter, and that may have made him feel that his position was untenable. The other thing, and perhaps more important, is the perhaps connected revelation that the US investigation is now looking not just at the people who've already been arrested, but at Sepp Blatter himself. Now, we don't know whether they'll be able to produce information that would lead to an indictment, but it would certainly make Blatter nervous, particularly having seen so many of his colleagues arrested, that he might be at risk of arrest himself. Now, as a Swiss national in Switzerland, he's probably immune to extradition to the United States because of Swiss law. But the minute he travelled, the minute he crossed the Swiss border, he would be nervous that he might be subject to an arrest warrant from the United States. And that's simply an untenable position for the president of FIFA, which is a global organisation, who has to travel.
And a final quick question on the sponsors, the big companies that pour billions into FIFA, football's world governing body. Where do they go from here? Do you think they'll be happy with the developments?
I think they will be, because obviously this was turning into a big embarrassment for some of the world's biggest companies, people like Coca-Cola, McDonald's and so on, who sponsor the World Cup at great expense because it brings them good publicity and good exposure. I must say that actually I never really believed they would pull out even under Blatter as things stand, because really they weren't buying Sepp Blatter, they were buying the exposure that the World Cup gave them. And unless people stop watching the World Cup, which seems improbable to me, they would still get that exposure through the billboards and the advertisements and so on. And more important, perhaps, they would be worried that if you were say, Coca-Cola, or if you dropped out, that a rival soft drinks company would move in and get that publicity. So I don't think they were yet close to pulling out, but they'll certainly be very pleased, I think, that this threat to their reputation posed by the Sepp Blatter himself has gone, although I don't think the cloud is entirely lifted over FIFA. There could be still trouble to come.
And it's a story, of course, we'll be watching closely. Gideon, for now, thanks very much.
My pleasure.